The fantasy news must flow forth from the lagoons with the force of 1,000 typhoons. Welcome everybody to the latest episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Green, and today I'm actually going to be interviewing Brandon Sanderson on the channel, so keep an eye out for that video dropping early next week or today. It depends on when I get done editing it, honestly. Just keep an eye on the channel. But in terms of the actual news of the day, we're going to go ahead and kick things off with, of course, George R. R. Martin's recent blog update. He promises that he has been working on Winds of Winter diligently and that progress is still being made. He also talks about the bringing in of multiple new showrunners into the upcoming projects revolving around Game of Thrones and just what he's been up to as a whole. And I know it's very easy to just frame this constantly as like, where's Winds of Winter? And the guy clearly seems very annoyed with answering that question at this point. I don't blame him and I don't blame fans. It's a weird situation. But if you are a larger just Martin's projects as a whole fan, there are some pretty interesting and cool updates here. So of course, I'll have the blog post linked down below, as well as any other story I talk about here today. But we're gonna go ahead and leap off from there and talk about another fantasy author Kickstarter that's been going around. And there's actually been more than a few that have popped up in recent days and happen to just be launching right after Sanderson did his. And embracing that wave, Wight has actually released a parody video of Sanderson's own, where he talks about how there's going to be special editions of his books available through the fundraising website. But another campaign I would just love to bring your attention to would be the khōréō. I'm very dyslexic, so please forgive me. This is actually happening on Indiegogo, and what this is a quarterly magazine that quite awesomely publishes stories by immigrant authors in the speculative fiction space. So if you'd like to back a project that doesn't have nearly the platform of these other guys and help people gain platforms who otherwise would struggle to do so, this one definitely needs your backing more than any of the others. Okay, I'll move away from my soapbox and start covering some more badass entertainment news. And of course, I want to go ahead and talk about the incredible trailer that dropped for Forspoken, seeming to be influenced heavily by the Dark Souls franchise, as oh so many games now are. This gameplay though, popped. It was recently announced that the game has been delayed until October, which I'm actually not that upset by. I would always rather games delay to finish their product than put them out early, like oh so many companies have gotten the habit of doing, especially if the delay is trying to avoid developer crunch. As a former engineer, it's a huge problem. I also want to say it seemed this trailer was chock full of actual gameplay, and for some reason the whole vibe just seemed really confident. I know people tend to have a knee-jerk negative reaction to any form of a delay, but I don't think that's the habit we should have as fans, because a delay from a studio is better than them trying to patchwork something together. So it can be a red flag, I agree with that, but it's not always. But the final thing I want to say about this trailer is a little nerdy, but if we were gonna make a video game based off of many fantasy or sci-fi franchises, this is the type of gameplay I would like to see. I wanna see Red Rising like this. I wanna see Stormlight Archive like this. I wanna see Poppy War like this. The action is so kinetic and the magic is so flavorful. Yes. I went a while without being super into gaming, but that passion is coming back into me. Why am I using fake glasses? And it's time for my One Piece fans to rejoice as we hit the 25-year anniversary for One Piece. It appears we are getting a One Piece card game. Now, I am completely disconnected from the card game world. It's just not my area of board game or game as a whole, so I can't get into the details here. But of course, if you'd like to see it for yourself, link down below. I just don't want to bullshit out my mouth about a whole section of entertainment I'm not familiar with. And in similar One Piece news, we also got additional casting for the upcoming live action show over at Netflix. This includes Jeff Ward as Buggy, Vincent Reagan as Garp, Aidan Scott as Helimpo, McKinley Belcher as Arlong, Hila is Sorely Polino as Alvida, and Morgan Davies as Colby. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I have a hard time imagining any form of live action One Piece, so picturing these actors in the roles doesn't come easily to me, but they do seem to be as good a fit as you could get for something like One Piece being adapted into live action. I just don't know how to feel about this. Now for a Star Trek rant. Star Trek, how dare you give me hope? because the trailer dropped for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and its tone mixed awe and a whimsical approach towards space travel that actually tickled my Star Trek fan, and I can't. Don't give me hope! Do not give me hope! I have kept up with what has been going on with Star Trek, and it's hurt. But this looked like damn good Star Trek. Who doesn't like Pike? And I'll get a ton of comments if I don't mention it, asking why I didn't mention it, but the reason I didn't mention it is because you've already heard and know everything you possibly could know about this, because every other YouTuber has already talked about this. But okay, yes, the teaser for Obi-Wan Kenobi dropped. Looked Star Wars-y of 2022. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah, it's there. I don't care about Star Wars that much, despite a kind of regretted tattoo, but I wouldn't take it away. I still like it. No matter what you say about Star Wars, TIE fighters are cool. And in a headline I only want to cover because, like, I read it and went, bull. According to a recent article, Steven Spielberg was heavily involved in the Halo series. Every aspect he looked at. For those of you who don't know, Spielberg actually has had touchings with the Halo franchise before, but this recent show, up until recently, has not had Steven Spielberg really in any of the publicity. But now that it's coming out soon, we're suddenly seeing someone say he was heavily involved in every aspect he looked at, which just is like a little caveat where I'm like, did you show him some dailies? And he went like, that's cool, maybe do that. And then you kind of changed it, and now you're crediting him with a lot of stuff to get headlines, because it's just what it felt like to me. Pulling it out my ass. I could be completely wrong. Maybe Spielberg was looking at all kinds of stuff, heavily involved. Or people know he's attached, he doesn't mind them using their name to be like, hey, Spielberg, that's one of the biggest names ever in Hollywood, Spielberg. Spielberg kind of touched this a little bit. You want a little tickle tickle? Halo got a little tickle tickle from Spielberg. There was Halo and he went tickle 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 tickle. Tickle tickle tickle. I just, after all these years of covering Hollywood and adaptation and stuff, I would not put it past them to inflate his kind of involvement in a couple of little bits of advice here and there too. He looked at all kinds of stuff and changed it entirely. Because that's what Hollywood do. Of course, right as I was about to finish fantasy news today, Sanderson dropped another title reveal for Secret Project #2, and this will be titled The Frugal Wizard's Guide to Surviving Medieval England, confirming this is not a Cosmere novel. It's one of the ones that is disconnected for this world and almost kind of makes me a bit more excited. And yeah, it's the one with the guy in the hat on the planet with all the planets behind him. Go check out Sanderson reading it, of course, in the links down below if you'd like to. And in the final story we're going to be covering here today, it seems that Disney has been working on an oh-so-required and completely needed prequel to The Lion King, focusing on the origins of Mufasa. That's right, we're all going to be able to finally get the questions answered of where Mufasa has come from. But this has been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Check out my merch. I still can't get displayed below the belt because Google doesn't want high-quality shirts from Designed by Humans that I think are better than the ones from like Teespring, which they will allow down there, but okay. And you know, books, Patreon, Discord server if you want to contribute to the next fantasy. Bye! And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreon, Andrew Gotch.